The Cleveland Plain Dealer printed today a series of photographs it says it got from an Army combat photographer, and it says the pictures show the bodies of South Vietnamese killed.
Now, I'd like for you to orally tell us exactly what happened that day.
And there were people walking along the trail, and the GI started firing at them with the M16 machine gun, also an M79 grenade launcher. It really struck me, sort of puzzled. Right away, these people just, they didn't try to duck for cover, they just kept on walking.
Well, what happened on that operation there, again, I volunteered to go on along with my reporter, Jay Roberts. It was part of the 31st Public Information Office and that. We both volunteered to go. We were the senior people in the office. We were given a choice. We didn't have to go. But we just looked at each other and said, well, let's go. It's going to be probably my last mission, because I'll do rotate back out of the service. The first time when they raised it, they said we're going to bump into the Viet Cong battalion. And both Jay and I kind of raised our head, a battalion against a company. Then they sort of clarified it, the remnants of a battalion. We're going to go, wipe out. It's supposed to be basically search and destroy, kill anything that moves, that type of operation and that. It's quite a bit I saw that day. It was quite a bit happening there. And we left for My Lai from LZ Dottie. And it was only about a 50-minute flight to the My Lai 4 Hamlet and that. As we were coming in, helicopter pilot announced it was a hot zone. So they dropped us off fairly fast on the ground. We jumped out of the helicopter and we heard an enormous amount of firing going on. I thought, what the hell? Jay and I looked at what we get ourselves into. But the only thing, there was no outgoing fire from the area, from the Hamlet. And it was all, happening in there. No, we thought we were going to be shot at. No, we didn't realize, because you could tell by the crack of a bullet, whizzing through the air and that. So we kind of regrouped a little bit after we landed. We both signed to the 3rd Platoon. And we stayed to the outside of the village. The 1st and 2nd Platoon went into the village. And so we did the outside of the village, going down toward a highway called 521. And quite a bit of killing going on, because we could see as we were going past in the village. And the group I was with, the 3rd Platoon, they were shooting at people also in the rice fields and also they were walking on 521. And there was quite a bit going on. Jay and I couldn't quite figure out what was happening. We're trying to figure out, why are they shooting? They just look like civilians to us. They're not military people. They're not armed and that. So we were gathering our thoughts as we were going down to Highway 521. That was my first inclination. Something's wrong here. This shouldn't be. And I remember distinctly witnessing a group of people that were huddled on a trail just a little ways from me and that. And we were watching them. There were some soldiers surrounding them. So we thought they're holding them there, and they're going to question them, interrogate them. And as we maybe went about another 10 yards, all of a sudden we heard firing. We looked over again, and the people were getting up and trying to run. There must have been 50 to 75 people in this group, and they just shot them. But we still had to continue going down toward the Highway 521, and we just couldn't get over the area that we didn't want to, the area that we were shooting at. But as we were going down, getting down toward there, just more indiscriminate shooting. Just anybody they seen walking in that, bang, it was over with. They shot them. So we hit 521, and just before we get to 521, I seen this woman pop up from behind a hedge, up and down to that, and all of a sudden the shoulder shot her. Then I could see she got hit in the head. That you could see chips of bone. It's just a sad situation in that. But eventually, I was able to find her, and I shot a photograph of that. And what's really interesting is I came back from 521, heading back toward the hamlet of My Lai. There were some 3 people walking on the trail, coming to an old man, small girl, and a small boy, saying, "No VC, no VC." Tell me, they must have stopped right about 6 feet in front of me. I was with a group of about 3 other soldiers. All of a sudden, one of the soldiers opened up on him, and it just shot him, point blank. And that's when Jay and I had to we thought, we got to try to find out what's going on here. So we wanted to try to confront Captain Medina, who later we bumped into on the outskirts of the village. But as we were walking up on the trail, there was another two individuals on the trails. I call them both boys, but I understand later I found out the one underneath was a small girl. And I assumed they were going to be shot too. Because I see there's a movement in the boy on top, but the person underneath, I couldn't see any movement, so I thought maybe he might have been shot. So a smoke bomb was dropped on the other side of 521, which means we had to return over and search the area, and I witnessed some more killing at that time. The sad really part about it, the woman I witnessed being shot, and his photograph of the brains lying beside her, the two children up on the trail, so later found, that's their mother. So I found that out years later, but sad situation what happened there that day. We had to return, we were to go back in that area. When they do that, we have to go back and search the area, searching for weapons or maybe some, Viet Cong, which we never really ran into that day. I heard they left earlier. But the problem is I heard later we hit the wrong village. The Viet Cong were to My Lai 1, not My Lai 4. Eventually Jay and I found Medina on the outskirts of the village, and there was two Vietnamese interpreters there. And I remember the one Vietnamese, his name was Sergeant Min. He was trying to get to Medina too, and he was just saying at the same time, why are they doing this to my people? Why are they killing my people? Why are they killing my people? But he couldn't get to Medina. Medina was on the phone all the time, talking to as different other troops in a few different areas and that. But at that time, Jay and I tried to get to him, because Jay, the writer, knew Medina personally in that, so he couldn't even get a chance to talk to him because Medina was on the phone all the time.
Had you met Medina before that?
I know Medina from Hawaii. I met him before. I know who he was. He was a hardcore. He was really kind of a disciplinarian person in that. He was voted, top officer in the brigade in that. So that's why they flew over first instead of taking a ship over to kind of, scout the area and see what's going on. These are three individuals, men. They shot at as they were going to 521 on the trail. This is an interesting story. You see the grenade being thrown. What happened on that one, he throws the grenade, and I'm back on the other side of the hole he's going to throw it down. The damn thing didn't go down the hole. All of a sudden I went, shit. I jumped and ran so fast to get out. The thing went off, but I made far enough where I didn't get hit by any shrapnel and that. They're yelling, run, run, which I did. Immediately when I saw it wasn't going to go down, I think it's got about 4 or 5 seconds before that thing goes boom.
Well, because when I looked at it at first, I thought, are they throwing the grenade at you?
Well, you might as well say that if you wanted to. It's just, but that was the scary part of that, This one here is when Jay and I finally went into the village in My Lai 4 after we met with Medina, trying to talk to Medina. And this is a body here that has straw over him. He's burning, and I'll never forget there was one soldier standing beside me. He says, man, look at that. This guy's got ghost in him, because the legs were contracting from the heat and the burning and that. It was just a macabre situation. This here is a fellow, Jay witnessed this. I was off someplace else, but finally I caught up to him, and Jay brought me over to show me they threw a man in the well. What they did, they shot this man to poison the well. They decided to throw the man in the well, and that's a photograph of me taking a picture of the man in the well. It's a sad situation on this. Jay and I happened to be walking, we're trying to find that group of bodies where we witnessed being shot. We were getting close to the area, but we stumbled on these people that some soldiers were guarding, and they're trying to harass this young girl behind, and they're harassing this woman here, kicking her in the butt, and trying to rip this blouse off this girl. And finally, when I walked in there, I stepped in front of the soldiers with I took a picture, and one of the soldiers yelled, "Hey, watch it, he's got a camera." They moved back. I got to take my photograph of the people, and I thought they were going to question them, because I heard there had been a ceasefire order had been issued. But whether the soldiers there got the message or not, no, I believe they didn't, or they just decided to go ahead. They shot all these people. As I was leaving after my picture, I heard the firing, turned around in the corner of my eye, I could see them falling, and I continued. But later I heard the small baby, this kid here, after these people were shot, the small child, whether he was hit or not, I don't know, was crawling on the bodies, like trying to look for his mother. Another soldier put a bullet in. Only thing is, another person years later came up with an article on this person here. You can see she's buttoning her blouse. My understanding, this person was raped before she came into this thing here, but not much has been said on that during testimony and that about her being raped. This one here is when we happened to meet up with Captain Medina and that, this is an old man here. They pulled him out of his hooch, and they tried questioning him and that because two Vietnamese interpreters were there too. And so after they finished, they just left him sitting there. And it shows the expression on his face. So finally, he did get shot. Okay, this is Sergeant Fu bringing this man out. This is the only casualty of the day on the U.S. My understanding, there's two stories on this. Did he accidentally shot himself in the foot? And he did shoot himself in the foot to get out of the carnage.
I've heard both. What do you...
I would go with he shot himself in the foot to get out of it.
And I printed that one out because Medina's right there, correct?
Yeah, he's on. That's right. He's there. He's there. This one right here. This is the group of bodies. Now, this is the interesting story. If I've talked to the person who supposedly survived the two children on the trail, was a girl that I found out later. The girl they survived. I found out in 2011 that they were alive. That's the story they tell me. In my story on this is the mother's bag right here, because they were in this group of people that got up to get away from when they started shooting at that. They made it so far. There are survivors that were able to tell the stories and that, but not that many. But Steve, we hit two villages. We hit the sub-hamlet of Bente, which is just up from Eli 4. And they were where mostly all the rapes took place, is up in that village. And I think there were about 20 people killed up there.
I saw in an interview you gave that you were frequently asked about Lieutenant Calley's movements. You never saw him that day, correct?
I never saw Calley that day. I could have, but I didn't know who he was.
Right.
I had no idea. He was not an officer, from my understanding, reading about some of his background and stuff, what he was going through and that. He was not officer material. He couldn't read a map, really. I mean, it was bad.
I mean, that's a stereotype for new lieutenants.
Yeah, it's a stereotype in Eli, too, because because I guess Medina on the operation yelled at him a couple of times. He wasn't moving fast enough, so Calley just took on him. Kill. I'd say they were more in a way that they weren't behaving normal like they really should be. And the whole reason behind, I think, this happened because Charlie Company took a lot of injuries, a lot of killings, a lot of things. And the day before, I think on the 15th or 14th, that some soldiers got stuck in a minefield around My Lai and that. But it was a Korean minefield. They thought the Vietnamese, put the mine. They didn't tell them that the minefield was there. They lost their favorite sergeant. And before that, they lost maybe about a quarter of their troops due to, sniper fire, booby traps, just sometimes plain stupidity, that they lost these men. The whole operation, revenge. This was their chance to get even from losing all, their troops. It's really funny. I've been back to Vietnam, I think 8 times now. That I get learning more because I'm talking to more and different people what happened that day. The Koreans up there in the Quang Nai area killed hundreds of Vietnamese people in different areas of My Lai. So that was happening all around the area.
When you were taking these photos, the black and white photos were for the Army. The color ones would have been your personal photos, correct?
Everybody in Vietnam carried their own personal camera. Because one other person was taking pictures also in My Lai that I later found out he lost his camera. With an Instamatic camera, he was taking pictures. So I was the only one that really had, photographs happening there that day in the hamlet itself.
Because I saw that they gave you a hard time in the Piers inquiry and your congressional testimony about your personal camera because they seem to keep asking, why did you have one? And I remember you saying, everybody in Vietnam.
Everybody in Vietnam, you can see them, the officers, there's, officers, a book on helicopters, an officer published a book on helicopters. He had a bunch of photographs on helicopters. It's personal, everything was personal. During the massacre, my main thing, along with Jay Roberts, was trying to find out why this was happening. We couldn't believe this was happening because I think there was 3 weapons captured there that day, you know, out of 300 and some killed in My Lai, 90 some in Bintay, and 90 some in Mai Key, then about 20 some in that. You know, it's happening in different areas too. I mean, it was just unreal, my feeling. Yeah, but Jay had to write the story, which was very difficult for him to write. I mean, I remember the lieutenant had to help him write a little bit. He couldn't try to get his thoughts together. But when we went back, before we went back to the LZ Dottie, where Lieutenant Colonel Barker was in charge of the whole operation in there. And Jay and I walked into the tent where all the other officers were, immediately got kicked out. But Barker came out and talked to Jay and I. He explained how successful the mission was. And Jay and I kind of just shaking our head. We didn't dare quite question them. They were saying civilians now. We let him talk and that. And Jay had to make a story from his net.
So after the massacre, how long were you in Vietnam for?
I rotated out of there March 27th, 1968.
That's 11 days later. So what were you doing in Vietnam those 11 days? Were you developing the film? Like what
No, I shot a bunch of color extrachrome slides on my tour. I showed what we did good with our medical team and that. They were fantastic with the villagers, helping them with the minor issues they had medically and that, and did a fantastic job. But I didn't even process the black and white. I turned that over right away, and I kind of just milled around. I didn't go on another operation after that, because I was, what they call a short timer.
Were you worried that if you had said something, there would have been retaliation or anything of that sort? Did you just want to get out of Vietnam?
Jay and I talked about this. We knew that we were part of a cover-up. We weren't going to say anything. But if an officer or somebody came and questioned us, then we'd have to tell our story, because we could be held, in a promise, say, no, we didn't say anything like that. And later on, we come out with the story. No. Then Jay and I talked about maybe this should be told, but we said, no, let's wait, because Jay still had time in the service yet. He still had rotated out, I think around September, November, he rotated out. And with all the people in our office, we were like, buddy, become buddies with these people and that. We don't want to come out with the story why they're still back in the service yet, because if they send out on an operation some other members of the 31st Public Information Office, what's going to happen to them? Hey, look, that could be bad news.
When you were in Vietnam, did you ever hear of cases of fragging like that?
Definitely.
What was I guess just tell me what you knew about it at the time.
Well, I just knew about it from, hearsay, soldiers talking and that. They don't like somebody, it's very easy to eliminate them. So
once you're all done, you're back in the States, what do you do? You're out of the Army, what do you do?
I went back to college to finish my last semester in that, so I went back there, I did finish to graduate in that. And I just kind of milled around a little bit, trying to find out, which way I wanted to go, whether I wanted to go back into photography or else I wanted to, maybe I decided to go back in the business world for a while. I processed the photographs myself, and I decided maybe I wanted to find out how people felt about the war and what was the reaction to the photographs. So I showed them, the good we did in Vietnam first. Then I go into the My Lai, and I explained everything to them, and that. At the end, I asked if there's any questions. Most of the people didn't want to ask questions in that. They just shook their head and they say they can't believe this happened.
Really?
Right, yeah.
Did anyone accuse you of fabricating the photos? Or
I got accused of filming this in Hollywood. It was all.
What did you personally expect people would say when you showed them the good and then the bad?
It's really interesting, the reaction, since some of the time when I went to the bigger, say I was in New York showing the photographs too, and that, and it got better, different reactions. But the main reaction I got, Americans don't do. We don't do this. We don't kill civilians. We kill the enemy. Well, could they be Viet Cong? You don't know when you're over there. They all look the same. They're dressed the same. I met a captain on one of my trips over there. He was a South Vietnamese captain in the daytime. At night, he was a Viet Cong. You don't know. Well, so I think it was around August 25th, 1969. I was questioned by the Criminal Investigation Division of the Army and that. And I had the head investigator, who's really, he was good. So he knew I had photographs because he knew all, you know, people in Vietnam carrying cameras and that. So he figured I had my own camera. I said, yes, I had my own camera. Do you have photographs? I said, yes. So I need, and he wanted to know if he could have, you know, have them. I said, no, you can't have them, but I can make copies for you. But I need some information on more what happened there that day. And he opened up and told me a lot more what happened that day that was very, very disgusting. Because I didn't see any rapes, I didn't see any mutilations, but there was so much more that happened there that day. And when he explained everything to me, we talked about it. I think maybe the public ought to know what happened that day. Because that really disgusted me, especially with the rapes of the small children. One girl, 9 years old, raped, slit her vagina, and then shot her. I mean, that happened after they finished. They just shot her. Gang rape? No. I didn't believe in that. That was a little bit too much.
Did the plain dealer reporter, his name was Joe?
Esther House.
What happened once you contacted him, showed him the photos and all that, the process that went into?
Well, he had to research it before, you know, I told my story and who I was in that. So he called down to Fort Benning, Georgia, and talked to the prosecutor for Cali, who was Aubrey Daniels. And Daniel said, you're not going to publish him. He said, yeah, I think we're going to publish him. He says, oh, no, you can't. And that right there, Haeberle was there. That the photographs are real. That was the key for him to publish.
Why did you choose the plain dealer as opposed to, I think the Cleveland Press was still around? Was it because you had the personal contact?
I didn't have personal contact. I knew who Jester House was because he was editor of what they call the Post, the student newspaper. That kind of a radical writer, what he did in there. I kind of, you know, maybe trusted him, which I made a mistake on. But I decided to go with him. That was my best option.
A South Vietnamese official, the military chief of Quang Ngai province, today denied charges that American soldiers on the ground executed several hundred villagers in March of 1968. The province chief said the civilians died in air and artillery strikes that leveled the village after a number of Americans had been killed there by Viet Cong snipers.
CBS News correspondent Bert Quinn quotes informed sources as saying that President Thieu has known about the My Lai case for more than a year. And according to those sources, Thieu believes there is a good deal of truth to the report. But he did not want to acknowledge it, fearing it would only increase anti-American feeling in South Vietnam. Captain Ernest Medina, commander of the company allegedly involved in the My Lai massacre, has been ordered to appear tomorrow before a Pentagon investigating board.
When the photographs are released in the plain dealer, what was the reaction from people? Was it similar to the reaction that you saw when you were giving your presentations?
Pretty much so. A lot of people still didn't want to believe that this, you know, transpired, that happened in that. And the plain dealer got a lot of telephone calls and that, and, you know, why'd you publish them and all that, different questions on that. And it's just, you know, spiraled from there. They sold out the paper twice. I mean, they had a reprint or something, from my understanding, on that.
Did you, because I saw some of the comments that people were sending to the plain dealer, were you ever threatened or have hate mail sent your way or anything like that?
A couple letters I received in that, but people had a hard time trying to get, you know, where I was.
Did Americans just, as you said earlier, did they just not want to believe that Americans were capable of doing something like that?
No, they just don't want to believe that happened. They can't do that. But other people in World War II, there have been other wars, Korean Wars, and that, soldiers came out. It does happen with their stories.
And I think you only brought this up about 15 years ago. You mentioned that there were, I think, 2 photographs you destroyed.
Yeah.
I believe you said the person was identified in the photograph.
Persons could be identified in the photographs and that, and, you know, I feel myself, I'm part of it. I'm part of the cover-up, and I don't want to take an individual and go ahead and expose this individual since I'm part of it too. So I just went ahead and decided, you know, destroy the photographs. And these, to me, if these photographs aren't worth anything until somebody talks about them. And the Criminal Investigation Division, CID, went back after I gave the photographs, the copies, to the investigators. They went back and re-questioned the soldiers. It opened up their mind. They explained everything that happened there that day, and it went into more detail than that.
What did you think of the Army investigation into it and its decision to prosecute Kelly and Medina.
What happened, there was an investigation by the government. His name was, I think, Haeberle. And they took testimony of the soldiers, they questioned that. And after that, they wouldn't release the testimonies to the defense lawyers, their defense lawyers. Right then and there, charges were dropped. Quite a few charges were dropped against these people.
What did you think about that? Did you think that they shouldn't charge individuals, they should try and charge everybody? Or what?
My feeling, if there's going to be, they should try to charge, everyone should have been, because I was out of the service, so I don't know if they're trying to get a ways to people who were out to charge them, but they couldn't do that. So I think everybody's at fault on this operation. You might as well include Westmoreland too, and the people down in Saigon, because they knew what happened on this operation. It's a whole cover-up all the way through.
You said in an interview, I believe, that, and you just alluded to that you yourself feel guilt. Why do you think that you feel guilt? You didn't kill anybody.
I didn't kill anybody, I didn't shoot anybody, but why didn't I immediately after that go to somebody and tell the story in that? I don't know if I'd be here today if I would open up in that. I still had to, you don't know, fragging and all that, what could happen. And the people left in the office, they're going to spend time there, and our office is going to open up an investigation. No, but if the officers would have come to us and questioned, we would have had to tell our story.
What was your experience with the congressional testimony?
I'll never forget walking in there and sitting down in the hardcore, what they are, and they had a map of My Lai, and they asked me, I'll never forget this, where were you in My Lai? And I looked at the map, I kind of turned my head and I went the map's upside down. Oh, the cleaning lady must have, when she cleaned, must have put it on backwards. I mean, they're trying, I knew it was happening right from there.
When did you first return to Vietnam, and what was your experience like?
I returned the month of December in the year 2000. I wanted to do a bicycle ride from Hanoi to Saigon with a group and that. And the guy that we were with and that knew the story, and he said, "Do you want me to have the press meet you in Quang Ngo when we stop in My Lai?" I said, "No, I just want to gather my thoughts there. This is my first thing. I don't know how the people would react." And that, so when I got there, I just kind of wandered through the village and tried to, recollect what happened in what area and that.
What was the reaction from the people when you eventually told them who you were, that you had been there?
Well, that was maybe about 2000, 2011, 2000, I think it was 2013, one time, 2013, that I went back there. And now they made me sit in the audience up front next to the officers of Quang Ngai, the government, and that. So all of a sudden I hear my name. Got to stand up. So I stood up. I didn't know what the heck was going to happen. The people all applauded, and that they knew who I was. They appreciated it because of the photographs, what I've done.
How did that feel for you?
It felt good for me, but yet when I see the survivors, it's a sad situation in that it's hard to react to it.
How many times did you visit the My Lai site?
About 8 times. I go to pay my respects when I'm there. I know quite a few people there. I know the director of the museum and that, and so it works out.
Do you think without your photographs, the Army could have covered up?
It would have been covered up. Definitely without the photographs, or I don't know, because my understanding is when the CID first started out investigating this operation, because of the letter by Ridenour they wrote on that to different members of the government, that they weren't getting anywhere talking to the soldiers. They didn't really want to talk about it, and they just said maybe a few things, and it's just getting nowhere. But once they got a hold of the photographs, reopened the minds of the soldiers, and they went back to revisit the soldiers, and more came out about this.
What would you say to veterans who may have witnessed, perhaps not on the scale that you saw, but saw something, a war crime or something, and either witnessed it or took photographs of it and hasn't talked until now? What would you say to them if you met that person?
Be careful. You never know what's going to happen. If you happen to see something happening and you go up to an officer or somebody else, you're going to be questioned, and that, because I got in trouble once before, some photographs I'd taken back during training. And some soldier didn't like the training, so he had his mother write representative that in the Congress. Sure enough, I got called in, got questioned about it. Why did I take these photographs and that? And I said, well, this is part of training. So you got to be careful, very careful.
When murder has been done and atrocity committed, we cannot endorse their failures or forgive their crimes. And if we argue others did it, and they did, so why pick on Cali? How far are we from the immorality of an entire government of Nazis, which permitted and even sponsored atrocity? Every man has got to accept responsibility for his own acts. William Cali is responsible for his and has been judged guilty for them. But isn't it true that we who trained him, indoctrinated him, sent him to that place where he was, have to share some responsibility and guilt? Share it with the only man sentenced for the atrocity of Vietnam. One man, one lieutenant, not one captain, not one major, not one colonel, not one general, not any one of 4 commanders-in-chief, but one lieutenant for us all. Good night.